Dear friends, please subscribe to my channel to help it grow. Also, please put in your likes. How thrilling it is to return to the places where you grew up after decades of absence. So many emotions, so many memories. I was driving slowly through the sleepy streets of my hometown, a place that now felt both familiar and strange. I had purposely set out before dawn, hoping to reach my old neighborhood before the morning rush hour. Every street, every corner was steeped in nostalgia. Yet, it wasn't the same. Everything around me felt so painfully familiar, cozy, dear, and safe. But a lot had changed too. New shops and signs, and the vacant lot by the lake had been built over. Where there used to be a massive dump, now stood a brand new restaurant. The town had modernized, it was more stylish, and yes, more beautiful. Yet something lingered in the air, constantly tugging me back to my younger days. Then I saw it, the turn to the park. How was it now? Memories flooded back as I turned the wheel. I could almost see myself and my friends laughing and staying out until midnight or even dawn. My first kiss, my first fights. That park had been everything. It's where we skipped school, tried our first cigarettes, and celebrated our graduation. It was hard to believe how much time had passed since then. I glanced at my family. My younger son was asleep. My older one was lost in whatever he was listening to in his headphones, and my wife was peacefully dozing in the seat beside me. I caught my older son's eye in the rearview mirror, winked at him, and turned off the main road. The park lay along the lake, its eastern shore. It had always been full of people, especially on weekends and holidays. The lake water had been clean, and during the summer half the town would come to swim. That was how I remembered it. But something was off now. The road leading to the park was blanketed in thick fog, a rare sight for this time of year. I had seen fog here before, but only in the fall when the water was warm and the air was cool. Now it was midsummer, warm, bright. So where had this fog come from? I pulled up to the gates of the park and parked. Not wanting to wake my family, I got out quietly and looked around. My older son followed.
This place is creepy, like something out of a horror movie,
He said, glancing around nervously.
Yeah, like at the beginning of the movie.
He added quickly, catching my eye. He wasn't wrong. The atmosphere was strange, unnerving. The large wrought iron gates were slightly ajar, as if someone had tried to close them, but they had swung open again. Odd. They had always been wide open before. The fence around the park was overgrown with thick bushes and young trees, like no one had entered through here in years. But this was the only entrance. I shook my head, trying to make sense of it, and slowly walked through the gate. My son followed silently, sensing that something wasn't quite right. The park was unrecognizable. The benches that once lined the alley were almost all broken. The rotunda at the park's crossroads stood roofless, and in its center 2 young birch trees had taken root. The once well-maintained paths were now overgrown with bushes, the paving stones hidden under patches of grass, and in some places the pavement was completely gone. Desolation, decay. The fog, thick and swirling, made everything seem cold. It even blocked out the rays of the morning sun. I felt lost in disbelief. My feet almost carried me toward the lake, as if some answer waited for me there. But my son's voice pulled me back.
Dad, this place feels really creepy. Let's go.
I stopped and forced myself to tune into my surroundings. He was right. The chill wasn't just in the air. It was deeper. It chilled me to my core. It felt as though something in the fog was watching us, eyes that I couldn't see, staring with malicious intent. "Let's go, son," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. We turned and made our way back toward the gate. With each step, the tension grew. It felt like something was watching us, waiting for us to leave, or maybe not letting us go at all. As soon as we were back in the car, I drove away as fast as I could. I didn't want to stay in that eerie place for another minute. The rest of the day, thoughts of that strange, abandoned park haunted me. Later that evening, after the family had shared the day's stories, eaten, and looked through some old photos, I couldn't resist asking, "What happened to the city park?"
You haven't been there? Uncle Joe responded with surprise. Take the boys. It's all different now. Fixed up with cafes, gazebos, benches, attractions.
"What?" I asked, confused. "I mean the park by the lake. What happened to it?" Uncle Joe looked at me like I was crazy.
I'm talking about the park by the lake. There's only one park. It's completely redone. You wouldn't recognize it.
I rubbed my temples, trying to make sense of his words.
Dad means the park we visited this morning. It's abandoned. Everything is ruined. And there was this creepy fog.
My older son jumped in, frustrated. It took half an hour of comparing maps and photos before we realized we were talking about the same place. But how could that be? Uncle Joe swore the park was now a beautiful, well-kept space, while I, backed up by my son, had seen it as a decaying, ghostly ruin. We couldn't make sense of it. We agreed to go there the next day and see for ourselves. The next morning, we all piled into 2 cars, Uncle Joe's family in one, mine in the other. We headed back toward the park. The day was bright and sunny, the lake sparkling invitingly. As we neared the park, I couldn't believe what I saw. The entrance was bustling with people, cars were parked everywhere, and lively music was playing. Over the trees, a Ferris wheel slowly turned in the distance.
Dad, what the heck is going on?
My son asked, equally confused. I didn't have an answer. The park had completely transformed. New paths, benches, rides, food stands. It was all there. No one talked about that foggy morning again. But the memory lingered. And years later, whenever my son and I would meet, we still brought it up, trying to figure out what had really happened that day, and what would have happened if we had ventured deeper into that strange, fog-covered park.